What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you back on FantasyPros with a 10-team half PPR mock where we will be selecting 9th overall, the second to last pick. So it should be pretty interesting. Our roster, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and then 5 bench spots. But that's pretty much it. So let's get into it. And while we wait for it to load, a quick reminder, if you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have. We'll do our best to answer them all. But with that being said, let's get into it. Let's take a quick look at the draft board because I will say up until now, we've done typically more full PPR mocks than half PPR. No standards either. And, you know, as far as what I anticipate here that we're going to see, I think we're going to see maybe a little bit of a higher emphasis being put on the running backs. But other than that, not too much more. I think the bigger difference that we see is when we go from like standard to half PPR or standard to full PPR. And when we do some of those standard drafts in the future, we'll get into it a little bit more than on some of the differences between rankings and expectations in different formats. But look, here, Bijan Robinson is available to us, and 99.9% of the time, I'd be taking Bijan Robinson, but I want to run us through a little bit of an exercise here and see what happens if we go back-to-back wide receivers. So, like, what if we go Garrett Wilson first, and then maybe, like, an A.J. Brown or a Puka Nacua? Is it going to lead to having a sustainable roster if we ignore the running back position in the first 2 rounds, or is it going to hurt us a little bit? Because I've seen a lot of people, especially in recent years, ultra focus on the wide receiver spot in the first 2 rounds. In my opinion, I'd rather go running back, wide receiver, or even running back, because I think the depth for wide receiver is so much better as opposed to the running back position. But let's put ourselves in that quote-unquote uncomfortable situation. Here, the next 2 picks after Garrett Wilson was Bijan and Puka Nacua. Tremendous picks. Also worth saying, I don't know how Sam Laporta ended up being drafted at the 108 spot. I think, again, I made this argument with Travis Kelce when he was in his elite form that I wouldn't be drafting him in the first round. I don't think Laporta has reached Kelce status yet. So to me, Laporta, that's way too early for him. Here, I'm going to continue on with our plan. I'm going to take A.J. Brown. So immediately, we have got 2 great wide receivers, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson. I think that Garrett Wilson with a healthy Aaron Rodgers, breakout season incoming. A.J. Brown, we know what to expect from A.J. Brown. He's a proven producer, so I like that situation. Let's see what else took place, though. So we were kind of right in terms of the running back position being prioritized a little bit more. Typically here we see a bigger slew of wide receivers. And, you know, guys like a Michael Pittman, Chris Olave is still there. Deebo Samuel maybe, which, again, like another reason why I think if I was doing the real deal type of situation here, what I would have done is first take Bijan Robinson, then maybe take a Garrett Wilson or an A.J. Brown or a Puka. And then now, if I have Chris Olave still available or Michael Pittman still available, that is ideal. But instead, what we're going to do here is we're going to look at the running back position. A lot of running backs went here. I don't know how Kyron Williams and Travis Etienne are going ahead of Saquon Barkley. That's asinine. Marvin Harrison then shouldn't be going ahead of some of these other wide receivers. Devontae Adams dropping to the 3rd round. That's wild. Josh Allen, the first quarterback being selected, then Patrick Mahomes. I've been taking advantage of some Patrick Mahomes falls to me in recent mock drafts. Pacheco was drafted. So here, to me, by far and away, the best available running back is Josh Jacobs. I need a running back. I think he can continue the success he's had with the Raiders in Green Bay. He's the top guy. No more Aaron Jones there. So we go with Josh Jacobs. Now we need another running back here. Rachaad White, Joe Mixon. I mean, Travis Kelce, I'm not going to lie to you, is also very tempting. Just looking at the cheat sheet, Michael Pittman is still also there. Nico Collins is still there. So a lot of wide receiver talent. But, I mean, we've got 2 supposed alphas, right, on the squad. So I'm kind of going between Travis Kelsey and then either a Joe Mixon or a Rashad White. I'm kind of curious if I don't go with Mixon or Rashad White. I kind of want to see how this running back situation plays out. But man, I'm going to have to wait pretty much almost 20 selections in between our next pick in the fifth round. So I think that that's going to be depleted pretty quick. So as much as I would like Travis Kelsey here in the fourth round, I don't want my second running back to be like Zamir White or something like that. So let's go with, I'm probably going to go with Rashad White over Joe Mixon. I think his pass catching ability a little bit higher, but it's really, really close, honestly. So let's see what happens. And you know what? Immediately, the first thing that jumps out at me, very thankful I want a running back. Because remember, like 10 seconds ago when I said, I don't want my second running back to be Zamir White or James Conner. Those are the next best available running backs. So, yes, Travis Kelsey was very tempting. But again, these are the types of situations you put yourself in when you go back-to-back wide receivers, and especially when you have one of these extreme picks of picking right at the start or right at the end. So after a Rashad White pick, you see Lamar, Debo, Jalen Hurts, a little bit of running quarterbacks, Kenneth Walker, Joe Mixon, Nico Collins, Travis Kelsey, Michael Pittman in the end of the fourth is absolutely bananas, tremendous value. Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, still PPR, great value on both of these guys, even though Aaron Jones is on a new team in Minnesota, and even though Alvin Kamara is a year older. Then Trey McBride, oh yeah, Travis Kelsey, also great value at the end of the fourth. Stephon Diggs, Ramondre Stevenson, Mark Andrews, David Montgomery, and DK Metcalf. So now going back to our cheat sheet, I think that, to me, Dalton Kincaid is somebody that stands out in Buffalo at tight end. Kyle Pitts potentially in Atlanta, potential breakout season with Kirk Cousins. But first, I want to get my basically highest ranked player next. That's Cooper Kupp. I think that he is ranked way too low this year. I think he's still got another year or two of really, really solid production. I get it. People are more enamored with, the young name, the rookie record setter in Puka Nacua, but I'm going Cooper Kupp. And then let's see what happens with our next selection. So we do have our choice of tight end. I'm going to go Dalton Kincaid here. I think that he's going to be one of the featured weapons in Buffalo for Josh Allen. So we get our tight end. And, honestly, we looks like we could have waited for tight end because George Kittle and Kyle Pitts are still available. So maybe a little bit of a misplay there. Let's look at the draft board. Yeah, Jalen Waddle was selected, but I didn't want to take Jalen Waddle. He'd just be a bench piece for us, James Conner. So the next group of running backs is really what we see here. Some quarterbacks also in there. But yeah, James Conner, Zamir White, Najee Harris, Nick Chubb, DeAndre Swift, Tony Pollard, Javonte Williams, Raheem Mostert. So, I don't think it really Jalen Waddle was, I think, the best pick in there. Nothing I'm going to lose sleep over. Either way, he wasn't going to make it back to us. So yeah, we went with Dalton Kincaid. Now, looking at the situation, there's still some other wide receivers that I like just as much as a Jalen Waddle. That's why I didn't necessarily select him. Like, we still have Christian Kirk, George Pickens, Terry McLaurin. At running back here, if I were to go running back, I'd probably go one Zach Moss. I think he's got the highest upside out of these guys. Let's add some depth. We need depth at running back at this point in time. So I'm going to go Zach Moss. He doesn't have to be a starter for us right now, so that's one of the positives. And again, I'm kind of still kicking myself about the earlier Dalton Kincaid selection, but again, there weren't too many other guys that I was necessarily considering, so not the end of the world. Now, let's see if we need a quarterback or how many people here drafting. Only Team 2 doesn't have a quarterback, so they'll probably end up going Joe Burrow. Are we okay passing up on Joe Burrow for one of these guys? You know what? Let's go Joe Burrow here, and then see what happens with these other players that are available. So I'm going to go Joe Burrow, and then I want to see how these selections play out. Is it going to be a tight end run? Is it going to be running back, wide receiver run, TBD, right? So T. Higgins, George Pickens, Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, a lot of those value guys kind of disappears. That's why a lot of times I say I'm perfectly fine waiting on a quarterback, especially in a 10-team league. But the best way to kind of highlight some situations is to go ahead and show it live and see what the repercussions are afterwards and be able to talk about it this way. So more so, a lot of these mock drafts, again, they're kind of like learning experiences and highlighting things, potential, downfalls of roster construction, and again, kind of fortifying a lot of the ideas that I sometimes preach. Like again, in smaller leagues, being able to wait on the quarterbacks, very deep position. Then tight end, finally that tight end run comes in the 9th round. George Kittle, Kyle Pitts, Njoku, Evan Ingram. Trey Benson was selected in the 9th round. Was kind of hoping he'd fall to me. Terry McLaurin sniped right before we get a chance to make a selection. Brutal. Would have absolutely loved to have Terry McLaurin, but that's all right. Here, I'm going to go with probably Marquise Brown for Kansas City. Start to load up on some other high upside wide receivers that I like. Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler could also be a choice. I think we'll be able to get one of those guys. So I'm going to go with Hollywood Brown with our first pick. And then Austin Eckler was selected. All right, that's fine. Let's go with Brian Robinson as our next selection. I mentioned both those names. So now let's see what happens here at wide receiver. Deontay Johnson is still there. You guys know that I'm a big Deontay Johnson fan. I think him in Carolina, at least for this year, is going to be a good situation for Bryce Young and for Deontay Johnson. Upgrades all around for both those guys. Running back, I don't love the situation right now that's left there. Quarterback, we've got Joe Burrow invested in earlier, picking him, so not going to look there. We could go backup tight end. Like, we could go with a Dallas Goedert or TJ Hawkins, potentially when Hawkinson returns from injury. Honestly, that's probably the way I'm leaning right now. Wide receivers, if I went wide receiver, it'd probably be somebody like a Keon Coleman, Christian Watson, Curtis Samuel, guys of that nature. But let's go with TJ Hawkinson here, a high upside tight end that when he returns from his injury, hopefully is still going to be elite. And then let's see our draft grade here. I don't think it's going to be too high of a draft grade. Spoiler, I think, at certain points in this draft, we tried to highlight certain pitfalls, things of that nature. So we get a C+. Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with it. And I think immediately having said, okay, we're going to go with back-to-back wide receivers in the 1st and 2nd round, kind of put yourself behind the 8 ball there. And that's why I try to typically go more balanced approaches. But look, again, I'll be honest with you guys, treat this draft as more of an exercise on certain pitfalls, on how certain situations might play out if you go wide receiver heavy early, if you don't wait on quarterbacks. So I think from that perspective, that's where the true use of this particular mock draft comes. So, hey, let me hear your thoughts in the comment section, whether you agree, disagree. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear in the comment section. Again, any questions you guys might have, we'll do our best to answer them all. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.